One last time, let's talk Star Wars Resistance.
How you get so big getting hold of this kind?
Hello, and welcome into this, our last journey into an episodic look at Star Wars Resistance. Not the last time we will talk about it on the channel, but the last review because the series has come to its end. The two-parter episode, The Escape, airs tonight, is up available online, and this is just really bittersweet for me personally. If you're finding this for the first time, this review brings you to the channel for the first time, you may not know. This channel really kind of grew to the extent that it grew because of Star Wars Resistance. And it's been a part of my life for 2/3 of this channel's existence, so it's a little strange to kind of now go forward and not have Resistance to talk about. But you know, the ending is it was great. It was what I wanted out of an ending to the show. And yeah, we're gonna dive in. We have a lot to talk about because it was twice the amount of content. So we're gonna dive in, and there's going to be spoilers beyond this point for the conclusion of this series. The big thing, what we all kind of were hoping for at the end of this season, was Tam to come home, Tam to find her way back, and that was something that was done brilliantly. I definitely want to know where her story goes from here, and I think it's too bad that the series cuts off when it does. But at the same time, I feel like any of the major plot points and the big things, we got answers to. I definitely didn't get everything I wanted from the show answered. I definitely think there's, you know, things with the children from Tahar and what was going on with them and Mika Gray and, you know, Kaz's family is still out there. I had the long running theory that we were going to eventually find out Kaz's dad was a bad guy, but like really Kaz's dad wasn't really in the show much at all, which is odd because it has, you know, the voice actor for Kaz's dad is a pretty well known actor, to just kind of have him come in and speak in 2 different episodes. So, you know, it's unfortunate to me that some of these things didn't get addressed. I hope they get addressed. You know, Star Wars is big. We could always get books or comics or, you know, the Star Wars Adventures line has already done some Resistance stuff, which I haven't gotten to yet in my read of the Adventures comics by IDW. But, you know, there's room for some of these stories to get told that we still wanted, but I felt like this finale effectively wrapped up anything big. Like, Tam's story and how is Tam going to fit in with the Colossus, where does the Colossus stand in the galactic conflict, that sort of thing. As we head into we don't know exactly where this fits into the timeline of the Rise of Skywalker, other than I would assume it's pre-Kylo finding Palpatine, just because he is not wearing his helmet. Like, it hit anything big that I needed wrapped up. It wrapped up, and it remembered really well a couple of small details that I'll hit as we go through. And to the extent, like I said, that there are smaller things that I wish got addressed, to me that's just a testament to the interest that the show could create and the things it could talk about. I definitely feel like in terms of story, we could spend more time with these characters because the premise of the show is fighting against the First Order, and there's no reason to do that now, based off of what we've seen from a little movie that you may have seen that came out in December. You know, I don't know that Star Wars Resistance, such as it was, could continue on, but anyway, I'm just gonna ramble. I'm sad. I'm sad today. Like, I love the episode and I want to be excited and I want to be perky and I want to talk about it, but I'm sad. I'm really sad today. So we're gonna if you're sad like me, we'll get through this together, and if you're not sad like me, I don't know why you stuck it out with the show, but I guess I'm glad you did. But hey, you know, do what you gotta do. But so the show. The first episode opens up with Tam and Jace, and they're talking. I really thought that Tam was going to kind of be really isolated because she was squadron leader, but, you know, it didn't really go that way, but that's fine. You know, her with Jace still kind of creates that conflict because it is awkward between them now, now that she's squadron commander. And then the beginning of the episode takes us back to Eos, the water-y, coral-y planet, with Lucy Lawless. The surface of the planet gets wrecked. Kylo Ren, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, is big on just taking out any pockets of resistance, and so they return there and destroy the surface. And this is the final straw. This is the tipping point for Tam, who was already, basically ready to go. She just needed a kick in the butt to do it, and this was the kick in the butt to have her go. She could witness it this time. It's not something like Hosnian, where even if she's aware of it, which she would have to be by now, she didn't get to watch it, witness it, see what's going on there. This is a place where, she's seen the people, she's known what was going on over the surface. She would actually know the whole story and not be able to kind of fall for what the First Order would say about it. So she gets into action. And I think the other thing that really affects her is how Jace is just like, no, they harbored fugitives, they're terrible, they got what they deserved. And Jace just being so zealous about this, I think really pulled Tam into realizing this, I'm just not surrounded by good people. Tam enlists the help of a little mouse droid, which some of my favorite droids in Star Wars. And I really like this because, we see Kaz go around with either CB or BB-8, and we see, Yeager has Bucket, Hype has his droids. There's been so many great droids in Star Wars Resistance. Even though this mouse droid isn't Tam's droid, I just like seeing Tam interact with a little droid. I liked her plan. We saw Tierney with Tam's comlink it would have been the previous episode. So Tam knows where that is. She comes up with this plan to go get the comlink so she can call the Colossus. I also really like that when Tam is playing with Mouse Droid, she finds the droid's name and is calling it by its name. We get to see that humanity return to Tam as she gets to interact with this droid. Before she can steal the comlink, however, Pyre and Tierney meet up with Supreme Leader Ren. I was really pumped to hear the words Supreme Leader Ren spoken. This is something I talked about in past reviews when we weren't sure where this fell in the timeline. I wasn't sure if Tierney and Pyre knew that Snoke had been killed. Now, obviously, they have known for some time. Kylo would be the one he was worried about when he mentioned something about that in the previous episode. And Kylo is not messing around. The fact that Kylo is dealing with this and not Hux means that he has this kind of vested personal interest, whether that's over the Colossus or a mark of his obsession in fighting the Resistance, I don't necessarily know, but seeing that, and we can see him at his most brutal. He's trying to light a fire underneath them so they will find the Colossus, and he uses the Force to make Pyre and Tierney aim at each other. He's exerting such power over them, not just military power that they could be court-martialed, but he's like, no, I can literally kill you from all the way over here, and worse than that, I can make you guys kill each other from all the way over here. So that gives them the proper motivation to get going. This is 100% evil Kylo. And really, other than seeing Phasma briefly in the first season, this is really our best chance at seeing some big main characters. We saw Hux, obviously. It was a really intense connection as we draw closer to the Rise of Skywalker. Tam sneaks out of the office as Tierney returns when she grabs the comlink, makes it back to her quarters, and then uses the mouse droid to contact Kaz, and that takes us to, title card and then to our heroes. Niku and Kaz are working on the fireball, Bucket's there, Yeager walks up, and this is to really evoke this sense of, this is Team Fireball. This is the people we started the series with. If you go back to the promotional material for the first season of Star Wars Resistance, they had meet Team Fireball. So this is Team Fireball and they're hanging out. It's just that they're missing a critical part of Team Fireball. They are missing Tam, and they talk about Tam, and Niku has too many amazing lines to reiterate. I'd just end up copying the entire show if I got started talking about how, Tam would always get on Kaz's case or whatever, and then they get the signal from Tam, and it comes through in this coded message, and you find out that Tam and Niku had this code that they could send each other messages to so they could talk about how terrible Kaz was behind his back and he wouldn't know. And I thought that was really funny. And what I really love about it is Niku is so nice and so pure and so understanding, but even he had to vent about how little Kaz knew in the first season. And I like seeing Niku and Tam's friendship, and I think it's a friendship in this show that is often forgotten about. Something we saw a lot in the Bebo episode, and Bebo gets mentioned in this scene, Tam and Niku would have been the friends. They would have been the buddies. They would have been Blowfish 1 and Blowfish 2 before Kaz showed up. So seeing, signs of their bond that they had also kind of just takes us all the way back to the beginning of the show. Yeager is aware that this message could be a trap. Kaz is aware that this message could be a trap, but he thinks it's worth it. Yeager, surprisingly enough, thinks it's worth it, and he wants to go with Kaz to get Tam. Previously, Yeager had expressed that he'd kind of lost hope in Tam. That was something that Vanessa had kind of re-sparked in him in the previous week's episode to give her another chance. So this is kind of her influence at him wanting to believe in Tam one more time. They go to Doza. Doza's like, this could be a trap, and Vanessa is there again, just kind of making sure everything's okay, and explains to Emmanuel that if Tora was the one who ran away and was looking to come home, like, they would do anything for Tora, and that they should let Kaz and Yeager do this for Tam. And so Doza agrees and sends them in the First Order shuttle. I love seeing Doza and Vanessa interact. I think it's so great to see them side by side. As Yeager is away in these episodes, she kind of fills Yeager's role, the person in Doza's ear. I'm just seeing how they interact and how they communicate was great. Really, as scenes would go on and we would see Tora, wanting to go after Kaz and Yeager in different points, and seeing the three of them interact, I just love seeing the Doza family, like, in the command center doing things, and it's just the Dozas together, and seeing them as this family unit, I can't shut up about how much I love the Doza family, so I was well fed by all of their scenes together. Tam is prepping her TIE fighter for her grand scheme to get away. Jace is suspicious. Tierney is suspicious, so Tierney assigns Jace to stay with her. Tierney is too smart to not realize that something's up. I don't think she wants to believe that Tam has betrayed her yet, either out of her own belief in Tam or just her own pride, but kind of keeps Jace there because she knows Jace is the one that is really on board with what the First Order is doing. So they start to head to Castellon. This was fun. We see Yeager and Kaz arrive on Castellon, of course, without the Colossus. It's just ocean and some old racing rings. Kaz even thinks that the ring they stop at, the first one he crashed into during his first race. It was just neat to see them hanging out there, to kind of go back to the planet where the show all started. Go back to the planet where Tam left them to begin with, to be the planet where Tam returned to them. All of that worked out really well. It's at this point that Tam arrives, but of course she has to bring her squad with her, so Yeager and Kaz aren't really sure. Is this a trap? Did Tam just have to bring people? It becomes more obvious what's going on when Tam has to shoot down her own squad mates in order to defect back to her friends. But it is a tense couple of moments, especially as the baddies, Pyre and Tierney, learn that Tam headed to Castellon. Tierney checks, sees the comm is gone. This is the point where she knows she's lost Tam. So now they're en route, and this kind of starts the domino effect of really terrible stuff that starts happening to the good guys until we get to the end. Before the action kicked up, however, Kaz and Yeager were able to have a really nice conversation. Here we get a little bit more insight into Yeager and Tam's relationship. The typical thing would be Yeager saying, I saw a little bit of myself in Tam and I wanted to take care of her, but really what he saw was a little bit of his brother in Tam. And he would have found Tam at a time when he was still trying to make peace with his brother after the loss of Yeager's family and everything that happened there. And to take in Tam, that would explain the tension, at least that Yeager has, that he felt betrayed by his brother, and then to be betrayed again by somebody who took in because she reminds him of his brother. I think it adds a lot more layer to what's going on in a way that makes things make a little bit more sense to me. Not that it makes things okay, but it makes things make a little bit more sense. And Yeager even admits, I didn't let her have the fireball because I was afraid she was going to fly away and leave, which is a terrible motivation for not giving her the fireball. Yeager, in my opinion, is messing up left and right with Tam, but he's messing up with her in a way that is I don't even want to say understandable, but sympathetic. It's not that he hates Tam, it's not that he really likes putting her down, it's not that he's actively trying to repress her or something. He really cares for her, and she reminds him of somebody that he really cares about that he couldn't protect, and it makes him very overprotective, and he has a lot of things he has to get over because of it. And it's a really short blip in the episode, but I think it's a blip that explains so much of what had come before this point. After the firefight, where Tam is more obviously on the good guy's side again. She lands and has her reconnection with Kaz and Yeager. I'd been waiting for this for a long time. She steps out of her ship, talks to Kaz for like a sentence, and then she just grabs him into a hug, and it was so good. And then Kaz like hugs her back right away. You can see like Kaz has just completely forgiven her in that point. In a lot of ways, I think she's forgiven Kaz, as we will see her interactions with Yeager are a lot more gruff. You know, she starts feeling that kind of guilt and shame and wanting to apologize, but then Yeager's like, you know, I'm not sure I can trust you, and she's like, well, you did lie to me, and they start getting into this argument. Kaz has already tried to apologize. Kaz already sent her that message. I mean, Kaz should apologize to her, but he already has. Like, he's not waiting to apologize to her. He's hoping that if she had that conflict, that means she heard his message, and he's tried to talk to her. And so they've had their connection where Tam and Yeager haven't really hashed this out, and they're the two that are more likely to butt heads, which Kaz breaks up and they get into the shuttle. Kaz is already like, no, this is great, you're back and it's fine. And part of that, I think, is just who Kaz is. I think part of that is Kaz feeling that responsibility where maybe Yeager doesn't as much. But I think also part of that is just the years. I think that Yeager has known Tam a lot longer, so those feelings ran a lot deeper. Which I don't want to say that Kaz doesn't have deep feelings or care for Tam. I think he absolutely does. But it's just you can't compare a deep friendship you have from 1 year to a deep friendship and mentorship you have from several. Especially because it isn't really just a friendship. It is this kind of surrogate father-daughter relationship that makes things a lot more complicated. Star Destroyer shows up, Pyre and Tierney are there, so they have to get out of there. They decide to bring Jace anyway, they don't want to just leave him behind, so Jace probably would have died there in the attack. As they fly away, the animation was just stunning. It was a little freaky for me because I don't like tidal waves. Star Wars lately has been really liking to mess with me by putting waves in things, but it looked amazing. I was really impressed. The whole season has just been just so good, and I don't say that to be like the first season wasn't, because the first season had some amazing things, but you can tell that they really amped it up after like having a season underneath their belt to know how to play around with this art style to bring us something really amazing in this season, and we got to see that. They fly off into space, get caught in a tractor beam, they're able to send a message to the Colossus, but get swallowed up as they get onto the ship. They're trying to figure out what to do. Yeager and Tam are still kind of arguing a little bit, you know. Yeager questions her, and Tam's like, no, this wasn't me. He's like, well, you got us into this mess, you need to get us out. And Tam, to her credit, is just like, okay, let's figure something out. And I don't think it's really a fair position to put Tam in. Tam could have said as much, but somebody had to give. Tam suggests a plan. This plan is something we don't understand. Kaz doesn't understand. I really liked their arguing back and forth as to whether or not this plan would work, and Kaz is like, what's going on? Someone tell me. I don't want to die. It gave a glimpse into what Yeager and Tam must have been like before they had this baggage that they had to fight through. And I loved that. And then it's a reference to Yeager at the Battle of Jakku, which is where the move comes from, which was a cool shout out. They end up getting on the Star Destroyer. Tam and Jace walk out while Yeager and Kaz and CB sneak out, getting ready to blow up the ship. Jace kind of thwarts their plan and is awake in the back because they didn't tie him up for some reason. And he tells the First Order where the Colossus is, because he's like, hey, I'm still a First Order guy. But Chase ends up getting caught up in all of it and arrested anyway because the First Order doesn't want to risk anything. The shuttle blows up, they're on the run, and it's left to Doza to decide if they're going to go rescue them or not. And that kind of ends the first episode in the first half of what we have going on. The second half of this final episode picks up on the Star Destroyer heading to the Colossus. Jace and Tam are under escort. They are off to probably be executed, and Jace is freaking out. He's trying to prove that, you know, like, no, I'm really with the First Order. I'm not with these guys, blah, blah, blah. Tam is trying to inform him that he's not helping his case. Eventually, one of the executioners just knocks him out, and Tam, even in this moment, still sticks up for him. Like, she knows that he sold them out and is about to get everybody killed, but she's still like, hey, don't just punch a guy in the face, which is funny because of a moment that's coming up. But then she's able to get away because Yeager and Kaz come to the rescue. I love that the distraction is Kaz just running and screaming while Yeager comes in and shoots people. They get away from the Stormtrooper guard, and they're about to run off, and Jace wakes up, and this time Jace is like, rawr, mwahaha, twirling his mustache. I inform them all about the Colossus. And now, this time, Tam, after rescuing him from the TIE fighter and sticking up for him in front of the stormtroopers, she punches him out, and that was incredibly satisfying. That leads me to believe that Jace is probably dead, because he probably did not get off the Star Destroyer before it ultimately gets blown up at the end, but hey, you know, she gave him ample time to stop screaming at her, and he never did. It's at this point that Tora is still really worried about her friends on the Star Destroyer, and Doza is trying to figure out what they need to do, and there's a really interesting switch here where Vanessa is the one now who's worried about the Colossus. Doza suggests they go after him, and she's like, well, we can't sacrifice the safety of the people on the Colossus, and now Emmanuel is finally the one who's like, hey, we need to be in this fight. I said we were going to be in the fight, I said we weren't going to not stick up for things anymore, so let's get everybody together now on Z's, and we're going to chat about it, we're going to work this out. And I liked seeing them not necessarily switch sides or perspectives, but just this idea of them together. They can see different things. They can play off different angles. I already have talked a lot about the Dozas, but I love the Dozas, and I love that moment. As Kaz, Yeager, and Tam are running off, they need a turbo lift. Kaz gets on his comlink, radios to CB to get said turbo lift. It made me think of the opening scene of Revenge of the Sith with R2 getting the turbo lift. I don't know if that was a direct connection or not, but I thought that was funny. They get in the turbo lift, and it's at this point where they're distressing because they realize that where the Star Destroyer's going, and Yeager's like, we're gonna figure something out. We're Team Fireball. When Yeager was the one who's like, I'm not sure I can trust Tam, to now be like, nope, we're Team Fireball, we're gonna do this. You know, this is his start of like coming around and being like, okay, I'm gonna be the mentor and the adult in the room like I'm supposed to be and get my space family together. They decide that they're going to send a transmission to the Colossus warning them away, even though it means that they will absolutely get caught, because as soon as they do, the First Order will rush to their location. And Tam says the line of like, it's the least I can do after everything I've done. So this is Tam realizing that she's been in some bad situations and almost caused a lot of people to get hurt. In some cases has been involved with people getting hurt. It was just a really good scene of them declaring, no, this is what's going on. Like Tam saying, I'm gonna take responsibility for what's going on. Yeager saying, this is my family, and Kaz has been on board with all of this since the beginning, so he's there. Now everyone is in on Z's. Doza is trying to convince them all to be a part of the fight and to stand up against the Star Destroyer, and the people in the cantina are not really feeling it. I mean, Sonara is ready for a fight, and this is unfortunately like the only line she really gets in these episodes. She did get her day in the other episodes. I wish there was more of her, but I always wish there was more Sonara. But otherwise, everyone is either not speaking or they're just not here for it. They're like, nope, this is too big, this Star Destroyer is too scary, we don't want to do it, and the Dozas are trying to be like, no, we gotta help them, these are our people, these are Colossus people. Even Tam, you know, she's trying to come home. The only other person who's kind of really in it and speaking up about it is Hype, and Hype says the line, my aces are worth 12 TIE fighters. I loved Hype's story. I love seeing Hype's arc. It was a really subtle arc that I didn't really notice right away until I saw a couple other people starting to point it out. But he goes from being all about Hype and all about himself to really grounding in with the aces and saying, you know, not I'm as good as, you know, a dozen TIE fighters, but saying my aces, like my team, these people that I fight with, we can do this. I thought that was a really good moment for Hype, but he's the only one really having a good moment, and everyone else is really freaked out and scared until they get their transmission from Kaz. So Niku runs in, Kaz pops on, he's live, he's shocked that he has this whole audience now to talk to Doza, but he's like, yo, Star Destroyer's coming, you guys gotta get out of there, you gotta run. Tam steps up and faces everyone, a couple people yell traitor even, and she's like, look, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry I did this all to you, but you have to go. They're starting to get shot at, the people at the Colossus can see that. Kaz runs away, and Kaz's last line is, everyone save yourselves. And that line hits the room because everybody in the room did want to save themselves. Everybody in that room, minus 2 or 3 people, were saying, hey, they're on their own, we need to save ourselves, we need to get out. And then to see the people that they were about to leave high and dry say, no, you guys go save yourselves, get out of there, I think that is a really self-reflective mirror moment for them to go, oh wow, okay, we were gonna not help you, and then you were like, hey, don't help us. You know, it just, that hit me. It especially hit me the second time I watched the episodes through, and it's the moment that sparks the Colossus into saying, nope, we're gonna be a part of this fight, we're gonna stand up, we're not gonna run. We are going to defend our people, and we're going to defend our home of the Colossus. We're going to fight against the Star Destroyer instead of run. So we've seen that arc with Doza, how Doza went from, no, we're going to protect ourselves, to we're going to be a part of the fight. But now we've seen the people of the Colossus go, no, we're not going to just protect ourselves, we're going to be a part of the fight. The Aces and Jade Squadron that we had seen the previous week get ready to head out, and the cool part is Bucket is flying the fireball. There is no pilot in there besides Bucket. His big moment on screen to go and do stuff. Tam and Yeager and Kaz are led onto the bridge. They face Tyranny. Tam has to face Tyranny now. Tyranny's like, how did I let you down? And of course she's saying this, but she's really saying that Tam let her down, but she's doing this like faux as they talk. And she's like, what could Yeager give you that I didn't give you? I did all of these things for you. And Tam responds that a family. Yeager gave her a family. And this is Tam finally realizing what she had. Yeager is, making this realization about Tam and why he never really let Tam spread her wings. Now Tam is realizing she kind of had what she always wanted after, we were told she's this person that didn't want to be stuck on the ground. We saw her not wanting to be stuck in the ground. We saw her wanting to be in the sky, hearing that she doesn't like to stay in one place, but now saying, no, this is my family. And so that was her kind of final square off with Tyranny. Kaz joins in, basically saying, like, hey, we warned them, they're not going to be there. And then the Star Destroyer shows up and the Colossus is there. And Kaz is heartbroken, right? Remember, Kaz, at the end of the last season, lost his home world, and now he's afraid that he's going to lose his home all over again. Because they're still there and they haven't left. Out in the fight, we see again Hype is taking on his leader role. He says it again, like, hey, come on, guys, remember, you guys are worth, 12 TIE fighters. Again, seeing that arc for him. They're trying to take down the shields to the Star Destroyer, but they're ultimately starting to lose because they can't take down the shields to the Star Destroyer. Colossus is almost at the point where it's going to start taking a lot of damage. And that's when CB once again comes in and saves the day. CB takes the shields down and they're able to really wreck the Star Destroyer. That's the moment where Yeager kind of takes advantage of what's going on. He can get them uncaptured. They square off with Tyranny a little bit, but they take out the whole bridge, get in a turbo lift, and it leaves Tyranny alone on the bridge while the rest of them make their way to the hangar. As they try to escape, we learn that CB has so many cables, and it's wild. But they're able to get down into the hangar floor. They get into a fight. Kaz gets cornered. He's about to be killed by Pyre. Before Pyre can take him out, CB gets up against Pyre and ends up taking the brunt of the fight. And then Kaz comes in and knocks Pyre out. Man, I was worried about CB there, but she's holding on. She's holding on strong. There's been so many points in the series where I thought we were going to lose CB, and I'm so glad we didn't. Now we see the Colossus rise up. So troop landers land on the Colossus. Stormtroopers are storming onto the Colossus once again. Before, they kind of just took over, and the people against the Colossus couldn't really fight when they got removed before. It was by water. This is our time to really see the people of the Colossus rise up and take the Colossus. I love seeing that. I especially love that OP had his moment where he got to take out the Stormtroopers with his floor scrubber, which was, I think, a lot of us had really been waiting for OP revenge, and we got it. So that was fun. But I love seeing everybody stick up. Even Flix and Orca got into the fight. Their makeshift kind of cannons, and it was really well done. We see the character of Mika Gray, and she's in on the fight. It was just really exciting to see all of these characters we had seen collected through so many episodes kind of stand up and take their place. Finally, the fighters take their shots on the Star Destroyer. The Star Destroyer is crumbling, and it's at this point that Supreme Leader Ren calls Tyranny once again, and he's basically telling her she failed, and he chokes her. Either he is not aware of just how much damage the Star Destroyer has taken, and he's just taking her out of power for some reason, or he is aware and is choosing to make her die this way instead of when her Star Destroyer blows up, to make this point of, you really screwed up, I'm gonna make sure I know you screwed up before I die, even as she's trying to save her life and say, like, no, we have the Colossus, we just need a little bit of support. Again, we get to see the dastardly Supreme Leader in his prime as Supreme Leader before all of the complicated Palpatine stuff. And then the Star Destroyer blows up. This is the Star Destroyer that has been chasing them all season, and the Colossus is able to take their stand and take it down. The first people Tam sees when she gets back on the Colossus is Vanessa and Tora, and she's, still really dealing with everything that's happened, and says the line, permission to come on board, and Vanessa's like, no, this is your home. And Tam gets welcomed back in, and she feels so welcomed. And then my favorite moment from the finale is when Niku rushes in and gives her a hug. I legitimately started crying when I saw that because, again, I was just so happy. Because while the show, remember, there is this friendship between Tam and Kaz and a mentorship between Yeager and Tam, that there was also this friendship between Niku and Tam, and to see that get recognized. The other kind of cute moment was Bucket and CB walking off the ship together. Bucket goes up to help CB. It was cute seeing them. They all go to the bar to say, this is a disaster, and Anzi's like, this is the price of freedom, which was kind of an on-the-nose line. But then I appreciate Tam just saying, I was so scared, like, I was afraid, and Yeager saying, no, you were the bravest of us all, and then her having a playful and yet kind moment with Kaz, and really seeing them together, and then everyone comes in, and again there's this line of, hey, we're Team Fireball, and then Anzi's like, no, we're Team Colossus, and then you see all of these people from the Colossus, and just this group shot at the end, and then the last shot though is still Team Fireball hugging and holding each other, and that's our show, and I loved it. I loved everything. I have, to the extent that I have minor gripes, like I said, is that there are things I wish I could see play out. I wish Tam and Sonara could have gotten a reunion because we had a friendship between the two of them established. When, Sonara was dealing with her spy stuff. But there's, they only have so much time and almost only so much story to tell. But I thought this was wonderfully paced. I thought it was just good television in general. But then just, they wrapped up all the big stuff and they left us with room to have more stories with these characters being told heading forward. But this review is getting really long. I said most of my emotional stuff at the beginning. We're gonna do a streamcast episode on this later this week, so I'm just gonna leave it here and let me know your thoughts on this wonderful, amazing, beautiful show in the comments. If you're not already, follow us on all the socials, and well, until next time, keep it real and fly casual.
Cooking can be fun.